Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and we are back ready to go for Giants 2025 training camp that starts this morning. How you doing, Cranky Fan?
It is Christmas morning. It seems like it's been a long time ago since we watched Giant football. I mean, I know a lot's happened with, the draft and free agency and all that stuff, but this year just seems like it's been a long time. Like I'm ready. Like we're gonna be, you're listening to this today on Wednesday morning. Um, we'll be at camp today. And I'm just excited just to hear pads popping and seeing football again. It's just, you know, maybe it's because my Rays are kind of and baseball is just kind of going along and basketball is over, but I really missed football this offseason. I'm really ready for it to get started.
Well, I've got a whole lot of questions I want to ask you about training camp and your excitement.
Yeah.
We've got a number of things we got to cycle through. Number one, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. That news came through yesterday. Sad news for the world of music. We were just talking about
And
that pre-show. What is your favorite
and
Ozzy
Theo,
song?
my favorite Ozzy song is I would say it probably was Crazy Train until I heard it 43 million times. I have a problem with songs and I hear them so often I'm like I don't like them anymore, but that's just a great song. It's a great intro. It's a great I never had Black Sabbath in my heavy rotation growing up, or Ozzy, but you know he's the unique one, and yeah, I'm surprised by how much mainstream attention it got him dying today. I was really surprised.
My favorite is probably "Bark at the Moon." This is one of my favorite songs. Growing up, just really liking guitar, like right off the rip, that guitar riff is just great. Um,
Hmm.
huge. I wouldn't say like a massive influence on like whatever, but I was a really big fan of some of the early Ozzy stuff. So sad day for that. Exciting day for Giants football though. So I do want to keep this on track. Um, but before we get into the training camp stuff, we have actual Giants news, and that is
Ooh,
something that we were hoping would break at some point throughout these off-season episodes, and we're entering the preseason episodes, and we finally have some news. The Giants signed safety Kayvon Wallace. He did play in Shane Bowen's defense for about 7 or 8 games in 2023 when he was acquired by the Tennessee Titans from the Arizona Cardinals, originally drafted by the Eagles. Um, and he played at Clemson. He was not an SEC guy. Sorry,
yes.
never mind. Um,
Did he play with Dexter Lawrence?
I believe that he did because he was drafted in 2020. So yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
there would be some crossover there. Um, I think that this is a smart signing. It's a value signing. I don't think it's one of those things that's going to um, make or break a season or anything like that. But the Giants really do need more depth in the back end. I like Dane Belton. I think that Dane Belton is a guy that has always been in his entire career, both college and professional, just a natural ball hawk. And being a ball hawk generally means, especially as a safety, is that you're just in the right place at the right time, which means that you're doing your job, which is what we from hope from safeties, right? But he's not the most athletic, rangy, best tackler. Like Dane Belton is definitely a depth guy, and if he's your first guy off the bench to play safety, that can be a problem, especially since I don't think he fits very well in the box. Now, Kayvon Wallace also under Shane Bowen. So when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, he was in the box to outside the box in a 2-to-1 ratio. When he went to Tennessee, that flipped completely the opposite direction. Twice as often not in the box, and that's where he seemed to look better. And I think that one of the things that he really is just a guy who's pretty surefire in coverage. Like he'll give up receptions, but nothing over the top, and he's a really good tackler, which makes for an excellent third safety. And I really do think that he will be the first safety off the bench, even though Dane Belton is this regime's draft pick. I don't know. Do you have? I mean, the thing that really makes me think this is a good signing is because outside of Dane Belton, you have Raheem Lane, who I don't think anyone is really particularly high on. Makari Page, who's an undrafted free agent this year, that is probably not going to make the team at all. And maybe seventh round draft pick Corey Black, who would be a converted corner. So I think that this is a really smart value signing.
Yeah, at first I thought it was maybe just a sign just for depth during training camp, and then let's see what happens when the regular season happens. But maybe they actually have a thought for him for making this roster and being a part of the rotation. And, it definitely goes to that was one of my keys for watching in training camp this year is watching the secondary and watching the safeties and see how it goes. So watching him will definitely become a priority for me now.
I also kind of like when I I generally think it's like usually a good sign when a coordinator, whether offensive or defensive, um, gets their depth guys from their previous team. You know what I mean? Like they're comfortable with that guy. They know what they like. Maybe Kayvon Wallace has some like athletic limitations, right? But Shane Bowen trusts him and wants him to be. You know what I mean? I think that's usually a good sign when that's your depth guy, as opposed to A, your starter. You don't really want that usually, or B,
Right.
a depth guy that Shane Bowen had no part of the process in picking. You know what I mean? So I mean, Kayvon Wallace being that guy, I think is probably pretty smart as their first guy. Now again, training camp has not started yet, so we'll see how he does. Maybe he doesn't even make the team.
Yeah, yeah. I always get a little leery of guys who are signed right before camp because I think of the cycle of when you acquire players. There's okay, it's the first day of free agency. The big ticket guys are taken throughout the traditional free agent period. That's where guys that are really sought after are picked up. Then it's like, okay, when you get down to cut down day during camp, there's all these guys that are cut loose, not always because of performance. Sometimes there's salary cap, you know, things going on and reasons why they've been cut loose and you want to get them then. So when you see a guy that's available and it's like it's right before camp, I have kind of lowered expectations for someone, but to your point, this seems like more of a unique situation. He knows the system that we're trying to run, and maybe it's just to someone that again doesn't need to be told what to do during training camp. He just knows what to do, so we don't have to waste time during drills getting things done, or legitimately trying to go for a spot. So I'm a little tempered in my enthusiasm for him, but like I said, I'm definitely going to be paying a lot of attention to see if he does, you know, make plays, makes the roster, and becomes part of that rotation.
Yeah, and I think what's probably going to happen is he's not going to catch a lot of fans' eyes because I don't think that he's really going to be like a numbers guy in terms of like pass breakups or interceptions or anything in coverage. But I think he's going to do all the right thing. Like, you know what I mean? A really good
Yeah,
safety sometimes gets no targets. You know what I'm saying?
I was looking at the reverse way. Like, I don't want him to be out there and seeing egregious fuck ups where guys
Right.
are wide open and everything. I don't need to see all the spectacular plays and the highlight plays and the wow plays. I just need to while he's out there, I don't want to see there's a guy in the seam wide open or two guys looking at each other while the receivers is breaking loose. So that's what I'm looking for as much.
um, Pivoting off of that, the Giants are starting camp this year with Andrew Thomas on the physically unable to perform list. Do you have any concerns about that? Or from my perspective, this is just them being careful with a guy rehabbing his way back into injury. He can be activated at any time. To me, this is just being smart with a star player. But I mean, outside of the general normal concern that we've always had, not always, but we've had recently with Andrew Thomas, is that he never makes it through a season not hurt.
Yeah. I think I would like to see one game during this preseason where we see our starting units play a relevant amount of time together. I think that's one of the problems we've had with this team for the slow starts is just the lack of reps in game time scenarios. I think we're overly cautious, worrying about injuries too much. I'm fine on July 23rd that Thomas is not playing right yet, but I would like at some point between now and the start of the season, he's playing in one of these, whether it's the Jet game or the Patriot, probably the Jet game. I'd like to see that offensive line playing more than just a series or two, maybe playing at least a quarter. So right now, for a guy like him, he doesn't have to learn anything. He's not trying to prove anything. He's not working on technique. He's just getting himself ready. And we can be a little more cautious with him. But I don't want to see him in bubble wrap this entire training camp.
Oh man, you said it. You said it. The Jet game, is that the second preseason game?
That's the second game.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I would agree. I know it's a difficult decision and it's a fine line to walk between the protecting your players from a meaningless game and overprotecting them and letting them be rusty and or exposed to injury in week 1 because they're not toughened up or whatever. But I think it would be a huge folly for them to not take the preseason seriously, at least for one game. I think we have plenty of evidence of what happens when we don't, and it's important for this team to win games early.
Yeah, especially the way the schedule lines up. I mean, we're playing right off the bat. We got 2 division games on the road. Boom, boom. If we don't have high hopes for the season, but whatever hopes we do have are predicated on we have to at least split these first 2 games if we want to put ourselves in some sort of position to worry about wild card, jockeying later on. So just kind of like, punting on the preseason and not making sure guys get hurt and playing a bunch of scrubs and kind of wasting the opportunities to get ready for the season. By the time you get to week 3 and week 4, and it's not just for making the playoffs. We have a lot of things on the line this year. There are jobs, there are coaching jobs that are on the line this year, whether they like it or not. So I think there's a little more sense of urgency with this team. And I am hoping, like I said, that Jet game, I want to see an Andrew Thomas playing more than just to break a sweat, to actually play to get used to playing with this offensive line together, get used to playing with a new quarterback altogether. I mean, new quarterback has a different way he, huddles up a team, the different cadence on his snap counts, different, I don't like learning on the fly when you're in week 1 and week 2. This is why we have 3 games. Let's utilize them properly.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So training camp, the actual camp, not just today, what we're watching today. In general, this training camp, what is it that you want to see outside of, them taking at least one preseason game super seriously?
I want to see players play. And I want this training camp to be more of a throwback training camp. I'm not asking for 3-a-days. I'm not asking for not playing without water and everybody dropping dead of heat exhaustion. I want to see a sense of urgency. Like I said, playing in preseason games is one thing, but you start that mentality to be playing in preseason games and to be ready for the regular season. You start it today. You start it with your 1s and your 2s getting significant reps. You have a heightened sense of urgency in every drill, not just we're going through the motions, not just, it's not like spring training where you have 6 weeks to kind of just, loosen up the arms, stretch out, and I want this team to have urgency to be ready to go for week 1. And I think I want to see drills run a little faster. I want to see I want to see more movement than I normally see in a normal training camp, from coaches running around, players running around, drills happening, tight. Let's go. That's the big thing I'm really looking for from a macro view.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting you say even like the coaches running around, because that immediately, the first thing I thought of was reports early on. And you and we didn't go to training camp this far back. I might have still been at Albany, maybe. I can't quite remember. But when the Giants signed or hired Perry Fewell to be the defensive coordinator in that 2010 season, I think. I remember reading articles about how he was like running all over the field and was super loud, like just not like screaming at people, like admonishing them, but just very loud.
Get on their ass. Yeah. I mean, look, watch Full Metal Jacket, the movie. is the drill sergeant just kind of like, all right, guys, next drill, let's go. Okay, let's stop for a little bit. He was on their ass from the second reveille started, him banging on the garbage can. So the second they went to sleep, because they're getting ready for war. And the Giants are, relatively speaking, they're getting ready for war that starts, in September. And training camp is basic training, and it's time to get your ass ready and get into that mindset as much as a physical set of the season.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited for. I'm excited to see Cranky Fan chasing the players around with a sock full of bars of soap, just like in Full Metal Jacket.
My call sign is Cranky, so yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, one of the first things I'm excited for is I think that the Giants have slowly brought in some really physical guys. You know what I mean? Like, last year with Drew Phillips is a intense defensive back. This year with Cam Scadaboo, an intense running back. I am positive there's going to be a training camp fight this year. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to involve Cam Scadaboo going a little harder than people want.
That was one of my notes, actually, talking about fights, because they always happen. I want that first fight to be sooner than later. I don't want it to be, I'm sick and tired of hitting the same guys. I'm ready to hit somebody else. I want it to be like, God, this is pretty intense. Motherfucker, I wasn't expecting that. Like, to your point about Scadaboo, I want that heightened sense of urgency and intensity early on, where that first fight is gotten out of the way earlier than later. So if I see a brawl like on day 3, I'm feeling good about the intensity level that this team needs to be at.
I'm all about it. The earlier the better, and I like that inter-team stuff, because it's guys pushing each other usually.
Yeah.
I mean, like, sometimes there's some legitimate bad blood, but that's usually like a completely dysfunctional organization. I obviously don't want that.
That usually happens. The bad blood happens over a season. It's not because of like, Jesus, we just got to camp. We just signed in. We just got our uniforms, and I'm already pissed at you. I don't think that normally happens.
No, yeah, you're right. Like when Geno Smith got the shit punched out of him, that was like most of the way through the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it has to be because we're kind of calibrating and leveling up our intensity levels with everybody, or we just been at a high intensity level and it's starting to build, and then boom, that explosion, and then we kiss and make up later.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see some training camp fights. I'm excited to see also, this is going to sound kind of odd, but just Russell Wilson's command of the offense. So I say that because I know in we were talking about Andrew Thomas, you had brought up you have like a new quarterback in the system, and quarterbacks have their own cadences and like idiosyncrasies, and everyone's got to kind of gel and get behind him. The things we've heard about Russell Wilson, whatever his athletic limitations may be at this point in his career, we're not totally sure, but we know that they exist, right? What doesn't seem to have changed, or what hasn't gotten worse, what may have gotten better or hasn't changed at all, is just his general leadership. And Jaxson Dart, I don't remember who he was talking to, but was quoted as saying like, Russell enters the huddle and he wants things a certain way, which that sounds possibly selfish, but I think that's just taking command. If you're in charge, you need to know where everything is and what everything is and what's going on. And if you need it to be a certain way for that to happen, then you take command and do that. Are we entirely sure that that's like a Daniel Jones-ish trait? I don't think so. You know what I mean? And it's not really like shitting on him, but it's just like, I think that first of all, go ahead.
Jaxson Dart wouldn't know that about Daniel Jones.
No, but you and I, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did Eli Manning strike like it's a guy who was like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but not in the traditional way. But I mean, I think back to the 2007 Super Bowl where he nearly threw a pick to Asante Samuel in that game-winning drive. And it had everything to do with a rookie Steve Smith not running the route that Eli Manning expected. And when guys did shit like that, you could see it on Eli's face. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have the conversations on the side. I think for a lot of Eli's career, I mean, also it was just easier. You know what I mean? Like
But
Eli was
but
the
yeah, but
solidified starter. Like I think
yeah,
everyone.
I think there's a difference between a guy like what's his name coming in today on day one. Russell Wilson commands that respect on day one. I don't think Eli Manning, he had to earn that respect a little bit. I
Correct.
think
Yeah.
once he got it, he was the, no doubt about it, the leader of this team and everything, but he's
Exactly.
not a guy, he doesn't have that tour de force-ness about him where he walks in a room and everybody, like his brother does, for example.
Sure.
Like Peyton was a guy, day one at Tennessee when he started, he was the leader. Day one at Indianapolis, he was the leader. Day one when he, obviously when he got to Denver much later in his career, he was the leader. Um, Daniel Jones, I think he's more of that Eli type. I think if things
Right.
would have, things would have broken better for Daniel Jones on the physical part of his career, being healthy and all that stuff. I think he might have eventually got there. We'll never know the full story of the potential of what Daniel Jones was. But Eli never got hurt. Eli was
True.
a rock health wise. So he was allowed and was given time by this organization to spread his wings and to grow into it. I never, I looking back, I don't remember this kind of like, okay, the clock is ticking on you, Eli. I don't ever seem to. I think it was just kind
No,
of
I mean
like
they were
this is
winning when they put him in. They
this
had a
is our
winning record,
guy.
didn't they? I thought that was like the whole
Yeah.
hubbub is that Kurt Warner was getting benched while they had a winning record just to put Eli in because they knew he was the future.
No, no, no. I'm talking about like, okay, it's been 3 years, Eli.
Oh,
Is it? We never had the conversation we did about Daniel Jones with Eli. And again, part of the Daniel Jones conversation was because of his health, but there was a definite, is he going to get his rookie? Are they going to extend him his rookie deal? Or
hmm.
we never had that conversation with Eli. It was just like, he's going to get his time. He's going to get his space. He's going to get his chance to develop and become, you know, a leader on this team and then, become a leader on the field as well as with the mouth, but also with his arm.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Eli was eased into that first start as well. Whereas, we had the show going when Daniel Jones was. You were demonstratively against it. You would said passionately like this guy got no first team reps all summer, and now it's week 3, and because we lost the first 2 games, we're just putting his ass in there. Okay.
I thought it was idiotic. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to be a Daniel Jones apologist, but if I was to write a book on everything to do wrong with the career of a quarterback,
You might need 2 parts.
it might be War and Peace, that book about Daniel Jones, because he, and I know the comment was made, we've done everything possible to screw this kid up, and they did,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things too. You put him into a very difficult situation right from the very beginning. You never gave him the offensive line, you know. You gave him he had a couple of weapons, but those weapons, a guy like Odell Beckham's a friggin' handful.
Hmm.
And he's not, he may help you being a good weapon on the field, but I'm sure he's a pain in the balls dealing with all the time.
I can imagine.
So yeah, then you have all these, assorted injuries. So minor ones, some major ones, and he's never been the same. So you know that's that's the thing. Now Jaxson Dart's going to have the advantage of, and I think also because he wasn't the third pick in the draft,
Yes.
or like, or somebody that okay, when the Giants, when we drafted Eli, there was chatter about, he didn't want to go to San Diego before the draft day. We knew it, and we knew the Giants were one. So Giant fan was excited about Eli getting up to the draft, and he knew it was a number one pick, the Manning last name, all of this stuff. So there's expectation from day one. A guy like Jaxson Dart, other than draft guys like who really study it and say it's a possibility he could be there. The average Giant fan was not thinking about Jaxson Dart. And it's just like, oh, okay, this is our guy. We drafted him down there. Oh, we signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. That's going to be something we can take our time with him. And I think there's less sense of urgency for him to be good and be the franchise right now. And I think that's an advantage he has that Daniel Jones, Eli Manning, Phil Simms didn't have.
Right. So on that topic of Jaxson Dart, what do you want to see from Jaxson Dart in training camp and in preseason, um, in terms of snap share, etc.?
I want to see him. See, to me, I want to see him battling with Jameis Winston to be the number 2 quarterback. I think priority 1 for this team is to try to get this team into the playoffs. So I think you need to make sure that Russell Wilson is ready to go. He's a new quarterback on a new team, new system, new players he's playing with. I would not be taking snaps from Russell Wilson because of Jaxson Dart. However, I would have him, and even if they know what the outcome of that competition is going to be for the backup quarterback, I would have, you know, almost an equivalent snap amount with Jameis Winston, because I don't think Jameis Winston's that good to be so much like he's significantly better than what Jaxson Dart could be if you give Jaxson Dart an equal shot with reps, attention, drills, time in the preseason games to give him a chance to beat him out. So if you actually have a lot of reps for him in that number 2 spot, and he doesn't win the battle, he's still your 3. He's fully utilized this offseason in this training camp to be prepared. So next year, when he's going to be the starter, this is not new to him. He's gone through it, and not just as an observer, as an actual participant of it. So it's kind of laying the groundwork for the future, and not just sitting around with, on your hands, or not taking it seriously. You're getting reps because, well, you're the draft pick and I have to give you these reps. It's more like you're competing for something.
I'm not really sure what I want to see from him at a training camp. It would be great if he was showing so much in camp that he became battling for the number 2 spot, but I don't want him to be battling for the number 2 spot immediately. Like I don't want that to be like foursome. I know that's not what you're saying either, but more than anything, I think what I want to see is when it comes game time, right? When he's got preseason snaps, I want to see a guy who looks comfortable and in control. You know what I mean? Because you're a third string quarterback. You are getting a bunch of guys around you who are not making this team. But you, as him specifically, third string quarterback, your spot is super safe. You're not going anywhere. So how do you work with that? How do you put this shit together? How do you wrangle a couple of third, fourth, fifth stringers together? And what do you look like in a game situation? Now, obviously, it's vanilla offense, vanilla defense. It has nothing to do with whatever. But just I want to see him look comfortable in a game, because I think training camp is going to have a ton of bumps and bruises for him.
Well, I think to your point, I think you may actually see him as the first guy off the bench a little more than you normally would, because he'll be then playing with the 2s as opposed to playing with the 3s and 4s. And especially we're talking about like offensive line, because, you also don't want to get the guy killed either, playing in, relative garbage time with players that are not NFL quality. So maybe
Rex Ryan begs to differ.
Well, that fat Jabba the Hutt fucker can go screw himself. But, like the coaching staff may have a plan, and Jameis Winston's the backup regardless. But you might see Dart playing in the second quarter of 1 or 2 of these games, just so he can play with better competition and better protection. So he's getting a little bit more out of the experience and than just, playing with a mismatch of people, and you're almost game planning around him not getting killed, than actually trying to utilize it to maximize what we want to get out of it for him. And again, that will cause chatter about, oh, is there really a competition? And there may not be, but I just think that Jameis again has really nothing to prove. Jameis may not need as much of those reps as he's also been around this league a lot longer, and he can handle a situation where he's playing with lesser talent just to self-preservation more than the Jaxson Dart, who when he gets in, maybe just trying to do too much anyway, and that
Mm,
could be bad too.
sure. Absolutely. Moving off of Jaxson Dart, is there
Mhm.
anything specifically you want to talk about, like our first overall pick, our first pick, Abdul Carter? Or is there
I'm
any
just
like hopes or expectations or anything?
well, the thing it's a little strange because we're going to practice one, and if we went back in 2 weeks from now to a practice, I think we would see some different things with a guy like Abdul Carter. Like I'm curious to see where he's going to be lined up, you know how versatile they're going to use him, and I think maybe in the very beginning, I mean, is today's practice even like full hit, or is it fully padded, or what is it? Is it a
I actually
walkthrough?
don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This might be just kind of like walkthroughs and quarterbacks throwing to air and stuff like that, which might be a lot different. We've never gone this early in camp. We've
No.
usually gone a couple weeks in, maybe after the first game, and we're kind of like, okay, we want to see things cleaned up to what we saw in the game, Saturday night or something. So I think it's tough to make like, oh, I want to see this tomorrow
Well,
or
I don't
today.
mean
Yeah,
specifically about
yeah,
the
yeah.
practice that we're attending. I just mean in general. What do you want to see from preseason training camp? This whole preseason section of the year out of Abdul Carter. Is there anything you want him to see him specifically doing? The way they utilize him, or like
I,
what
I
downs he's on, or anything like that?
I want to see them throw the book at him and see what he can handle. And if they throw the book at him with like, okay, you're lining up here, you're lining up there, you're doing this, you're rushing here, you're dropping back, and he can't handle some things, that's fine. I want to see I he feels like a guy, if we can push him to the limits of what he can do and he can do these things successful, that makes him a potential franchise player almost immediately. And I think the only way you know that if you got that in him is not easing him into this. It's again, with my theme of making training camp more urgent, let's be more urgent and speed up uh, the incubation period with him. Throw the book at him and make him come back to us and prove that he can't do everything right now, but he might surprise you and be able to do things.
I totally agree. And you know what? Just because he can't, like, if you throw everything at him and I don't know, something doesn't stick right away, that doesn't mean it's not in his future. It's his first. He's a
Oh,
rookie. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, find out where those limits are for year one. Maybe they're only limits for the first couple weeks of the year. Maybe they're only limits for the first year. Maybe
and
they're
this is
not limits at
completely
all.
different. And this is completely different than a quarterback. I mean, quarterback, a lot of quarterback is confidence. It's more, you know, reading defenses and checking into all this different stuff. When you're a pass rusher, it's just go get that son of a bitch. It's you may be lining up here, you may be lining up here. Technique might be slightly different, but it's not the same as a quarterback. Like we're not advocating just have Jaxson Dart start and just throw the whole playbook at him and see what he can or can't do. Not the same. It's completely apples and oranges. So that's why we can say for one guy as opposed to the other guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to see him moved all over the place, see what he can do,
Mhm.
see what he can't do. Drop him into coverage, rush him, have him play run defense, have him
Yeah.
run twists, stunts, have him line up in the A gap, have him line up, everywhere. I want to see him all over
Yeah.
the place. I want
If he
to
gets
see.
burnt in coverage, who cares? I mean, it's preseason. It's irrelevant. Doesn't mean anything.
And I know that this is like sort of not what you draft a guy for in the top five, but you know, Kayvon Thibodeau has coverage experience, and that gives you a lot of flexibility when you have an Abdul Carter as to how you want to deploy pass rushers on third down. You see Kayvon Thibodeau lined up, you're not immediately thinking like, oh, he's covering the flat, or he's going to drop in and take away the tight end with the hook curl. You know what I mean? Like it's not what you think, but he could kind of do that. So you're sitting there
Mhm.
expecting him to rush, and then all of a sudden you got somebody coming from the other side. It screws up everything. You know what I mean? And I don't know how creative Shane Bowen is going to get. I would be. I mean, hmm. How interesting do you think Abdul Carter would be? This defense would be if it were still under Wink Martindale.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like just now thinking like I'm thinking Abdul Carter lined up like in the A gap and Kayvon dropping into coverage, but then You have Drew Phillips blitzing from like the slot corner position. Like, I mean, all manner of shit I could picture Wink Martindale doing.
Buddy Ryan's looking up from hell and smiling right now for something like that.
Buddy Ryan's pushing up daisies with his erection.
Now give me some years of psychoanalysis after that. Gross.
Yeah. By the way, last podcast in this space. By the way, this is the last one that we're recording here with me in this backdrop.
Not of this show.
No.
His look at he's moving. He's
This is it.
This is it.
Behind me are some boxes and some shit. So
yeah, our boy's all grown up. He's moving to Dixie.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you some time to think about this because we didn't talk about this beforehand or whatever. But I'll answer first. But I want to know like who's the guy, the single player you want to see step up this training camp and show something. Like if you could pick one guy that you really need to like find his role. Already. Oh, okay. I mean, I was going to say Deonte Banks.
That's
okay.
Mine. Deonte
then go ahead. I will let you speak.
That's exactly it. It's kind of, I don't know if it's exactly put up or shut up time, but it's definitely put up time because, you know, I don't care if he's number one draft pick anymore. It's irrelevant at this point, but we're getting ready to start thinking about his next contract. What is his future on this team going to be? Are you going to be a guy that's, thought of as just, well, he's got potential and he still makes mistakes that a rookie would make? I need to see, I need to see a maturity level from him this year on maturity on the field and maturity off the field. And I think everything is there for him to take that step. We got a QB, a CB1 now. He is getting pushed for playing time. If this doesn't motivate him to grow up and mature, I don't know what there is. So this is really the year for him. And if he does step up, that's a huge thing for us because he's been a disappointment. And if he steps up, it's almost like getting like a whole nother cornerback that we haven't been expecting or anticipating for him. So he's my kind of number one put up or shut up guy this year.
If he steps up, we all step up. It'll be anarchy. A portion of our listeners have no idea what that's from, and that's okay. You guys are just little. Yeah, you know what? I'll go with one different just because I don't want to repeat everything you said, but like it's 100% correct and for all the same reasons. You know what I mean? Like he's being put in a position to succeed this year. We need him to just kind of be confident, be a corner, cover your guy, do your assignment. You have all the athletic ability. Yeah, you have all the ability. You need to get your head in the game. And for him, I mean, for me, like last year in terms of what he was able to do, I just think he's not capable of handling, covering wide receiver ones that are above and beyond. Like, in this division, you have, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb. Like, this is a tough division to be covering wide receiver ones. And I think that he can cover some wide receiver ones around the league. I think he can cover most wide receiver twos, but I don't think that he did poorly, horrendously in coverage last year. But where he really lost me is the effort stuff. Like I can't see that shit anymore.
I don't want to see any more him getting pulled for a play or getting yelled at the sideline, either by a coach or other players or something. And that stuff has to stop. I hope he had to come to Jesus over this offseason that too many strikes and you're out, and that can't happen anymore.
I'll go with a different one, and it's not as flashy because I'm not expecting as much. But Jaylin Hyatt is what I'm going to do, and you now have a bona fide deep passer in Russell Wilson. Now, part of my problem isn't that Jaylin Hyatt is just a speed freak. You know what I mean? It's that he doesn't do other wide receiver things that are even part of being a speed freak. Like there's a couple of deep throws that he had last year. You got to go up and get it This is not college where the ball just lands in your lap. These guys run just as fast as you, maybe a little bit slower. You have to do more. You have to jump and go get it. You have to attack the ball in the air. You should, with all your speed and the respect that DBs give you because of your speed, and they think that's the only thing you can do, you telling me that in 3 years you haven't learned how to run, slam your foot in the ground and turn around and learn a really good back shoulder or a comeback route or something like that to work off of your speed, or a really, really good slant. Like, I'm looking for just basic variations off of what you are already good at from him.
Yeah, he can no longer just be a guy who catches balls. You have to become a receiver. He's not a receiver yet. And you're right. Time's a wasting with him because, he's about a year away from talking about contract stuff. And to me, he's gone because he hasn't shown really much of anything to prove that he has value on this team or a future on this team. So hopefully he's taken this offseason seriously. He's worked with a receiver coach. He's worked with his peers, and he's doing things to be a receiver as opposed to a fast guy who sticks his arms out and catches the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that Jaylin Hyatt is long for this league. I don't think that he's long for this franchise, but that doesn't mean he can't get better and contribute in some way. I'm not expecting him to jump up and take the wide receiver 2 spot away from Darius Slayton. They just paid him 3 years, $36 million. It's not going to happen.
He's a really good number 3.
It's just a matter of just have some value on the field. I think that there are things that he can do. I mean, you have a whole other, you've got Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson. You've got Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. You have running backs out of the backfield that all can catch with Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo and Devin Singletary. You don't have to be amazing. Just contribute somehow. Just work off of your speed.
Just be good enough you have to be accounted for if they go 4 wides or something. Right now, if he goes out there, no one cares.
And when the ball comes your way, go get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be stoked about like a highlight deep ball in training camp to Jaylin Hyatt. I've seen it enough already. It doesn't do anything for me. But in a preseason game, is it going to jazz me? No. But is that at least encouraging that it's happening in a game situation? Yes. What I'm really looking for, though, is in a game situation, him running just some basic route variations to some level of effectiveness based off of his speed. You want to run the go route as your flagship move, then you should be able to work a back shoulder off of that. I just feel like that and like a curl route. You know what I mean? Like, those are just some things that you should be able to do, that you get open just because people are afraid of your speed, not because you're a great route runner. You don't have to be.
And these are things we should have saw.
Oh my
honestly,
God. Year one.
Going from rookie year, during training camp of rookie year, not in his 3rd camp. I mean, it's getting what's the phrase? It's getting early,
getting late early out there.
It's getting late early. Yeah, that too. Good call on that one.
Yeah, thanks. I know a Yogi Berra quote or two.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how interested or how much do you care about Evan Neal and his progress this camp?
I mean, I'm interested. It would be amazing if he were in the conversation for backup tackle. I don't think that the Giants have shut the door on that, but I think they've pretty much shut the door on that. I'm pretty sure fans have shut the door on that. If he can become a great guard, then that's great, because you're going to be spending a lot of money on him when he's in the final year of his deal. Fully guaranteed contract. I'm going to temper my expectations and let him surprise me. There are things with his balance that I don't think are necessarily just fixed because he's inside. You know what I mean? I think it makes it easier to remain balanced when you're not worried about flying out of your stance into your first step and worried about speed off the edge. But nevertheless, those issues still have to be corrected. So if he can tap into his success at the interior position at guard, I mean, it's not like there isn't a job for him. Greg Van Roten, he's probably the starter no matter what Evan Neal does, but he's like 35 and he's on a 1-year deal. You know what I mean? So There's that. I mean, and then behind that, what do
I
you have between like Aaron Stinney and Jake Kubis? You know,
I just always assume that at least one or two of these guys is going to get hurt. So I'm always thinking about like, yeah, if he's a starter, I get that, but is he a starter in week 3? Just does he go down with something and then what? So um, the other thing I wanted to look at during this whole training camp is, the Giants are kind of up against it with the salary cap. Like even if they have to sign guys during the season for injuries or whatever, is it possible that if Scadaboo is good enough, he really flashes during camp and during the games that they cut Devin Singletary to save some money?
no, because they won't save any money.
They don't save any money
No, not this year. Next year. I
next
also
year.
I also think that has more to do. Cam Scadaboo would have to show that he is a reliable pass blocker, which he hasn't really shown at Arizona State.
Mhm,
Not that he's been terrible, but he's not great at it. And if you're not great at it in
mhm.
college, I don't expect you to be good at it as a rookie. So I would be very shocked. I think that motor is a big part of what they're going to do this year. In as much as like a third down back that they can count on, because even Tyrone Tracy is not great at this either.
So do you think that Eric Gray is still on the team
No,
with the season starts? You think he's gone?
I
Yeah.
think he's gone. I mean, they've tried everything. They shoehorned him into a special teams role up until the point where they had to sign Gunnar Olszewski. They've went ahead and they've replaced Olszewski with Amir Smith-Marset. I think Eric Gray simply has no role in this roster, and the signing or the drafting of Cam Scadaboo, they might as well have just given
Yeah.
him a plant for a new housewarming gift somewhere else.
He gets the Tommy DeVito treatment, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Um,
mean, I
so
would say that Eric Gray had made his bed for himself more so than Tommy DeVito shouldn't have even gotten playing time. He was kind of, I don't know, lucked himself into a legacy, if you will.
you're right. So let me go back to the point I was trying to make before. So is there a player that you could be seeing as a bit of a surprise cut to either, to save a little money or just, a number situation where somebody that it's not obvious, like, I don't think I wouldn't consider like Evan Neal as part of that, but someone that I think a lot of fans think are going to be on this roster that you wouldn't be surprised is gets cut.
That is a tough question. I'm trying to find someone that would be a legitimate surprise.
I think it could be Banks.
I don't think it's Banks. I think that it's way too
But
early. But I think it could be Hyatt.
yeah, but I think we're all kind of I think that's like okay, give me one guy. I think a lot of people would say Hyatt, but I think it could possibly be Banks if Banks is if he's struggling and showing some of that attitude stuff again and an effort issue.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that most people are kind of like, well, he's a first round pick. He'll still be here. He's going to get every opportunity. But I think I think the patience with him is growing slim. And if I had to pick one, again, this isn't the favorite, but if I had to pick one guy who'd be a surprise that's not on this roster, you know, but is
It's not a bad pick. I mean, like they have
reasonable if it happened, could be him.
theoretically they're going to have Cordell Flott compete with him for cornerback too. Now I think personally that is just to get his ass in gear. I think that within a week or 2 weeks, you've got Deonte Banks is getting all the first team defensive snaps, and Cordell Flott is rotating between, the second team nickel and the second team outside guy. None of that would shock me at all. I think that's what they're aiming for, but I don't think that that's a bad pick for what the question raised, because you still have Trey Hawkins in the mix too. Now I know Trey Hawkins is whatever, but
Or
I think we think Trey Hawkins is shittier than he is because he got playing time as a rookie. He should never have. I mean, not that he should never have. He earned it. He earned it by
right.
being good in training camp and preseason, and then eventually it fell apart from throughout the year. But he was getting some stuff. They moved Adoree Jackson to the slot. Remember this? To start the season, he earned starter reps at outside corner.
Right.
You know, last year was a completely different coordinator. Maybe that doesn't really work the same way. He's got a lot to learn. It's a huge step up from Old Dominion to the NFL anyway. Is it possible that Trey Hawkins, pushes enough where he's a legitimate first corner off the bench and Cordell Flott is the starter opposite on Debo, I think it's possible. I think it's also possible if they cut Banks that they add another veteran to the mix anyway.
Well, that was the my thing is my annual pick for the guy is not on this roster yet because we're waiting for cutdowns that they may just get rid of Banks and bring someone in that way for this year, and then make cornerback a priority in the draft next year.
Hang on, I might change my answer.
Okay, sure.
I just want to take a quick look at a contract situation. On a surprise cut, Bobby Okereke.
Okay.
So Bobby Okereke kind of fell out of favor with some people within the building. That was reported, while other people within the building super duper love him. It's no shock to anybody that he had a drop off between Wink Martindale's defense and Shane Bowen's defense. He was not excellent last year. Now, I still think that he's a young, fairly exciting player. Do I think that he fits better in one system than the other? It's certainly possible. You know what I mean? It's like when they signed him, he was viewed as an ascending player, not somebody who had accumulated these years where it was like, oh my God, I mean, he's the clear best linebacker on the market. You know what I mean? So the fact that, if he's struggling throughout this whole training camp and preseason, and Micah McFadden also, he looks good. We know that this regime likes Darius Muasau. You have undrafted free agent Deonte Johnson out of Toledo, who looked good last year and then got hurt. And because he's an undrafted free agent, he's not really going to get any leeway over a big signing like Bobby Okereke. But you look at 2025, Bobby Okereke's cap hit is $14 million. His dead cap, it's 14.5. His dead cap is 13.9. So there's a minor amount of cap savings there. You're not doing it for the savings. You're cutting him because you're cutting him loose. But you don't have to spend. You don't owe money because of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that Bobby Okereke really could be the surprise. That would be a shock to me if they moved on from him.
I got one more too that, I don't know if it's a shock or not, and it's not something people talk about, but the guy who's no longer my most hated Knoll on the roster, Graham Gano.
Okay. I don't know how much of a shock that would be, although they're not doing anything to give him any competition, really. But I mean, it's pretty clear he's had a drop off from injuries and.
Yeah, and kickers you can literally bring off the street, and we've done that before and been fine, I think. So. I think if he's unimpressive in camp this year, I think they may finally launch him.
I'll say this. I hope that they do, and the only reason I say that is because you can bring kickers in off the street. You can sign like a Nick Folk or something, usually like last minute, and he could stay on your roster all year long. If you need a kicker in a pinch. Like, Graham Gano is out for a week. He got hurt during the game. He will not be ready next week, but he'll be ready the week after. It's not that serious. Just say it's a concussion. You know what I mean? You can definitely sign a guy off the street and get through a game. What you can't do is just pretend that Graham Gano is okay and go into week 1 or week 2 or whatever, and then all of a sudden he can't go and have your punter trying to kick extra points and field goals and you lose the game because of it. So whatever it is you do with Graham Gano,
7th every time.
Yeah, whatever it is you do with Graham Gano, be 100% sure about it. If you're on the fence, fucking move on, because you get cap savings for letting him go. I don't think Giants fans are going to be losing their minds because, you know what I mean? Like, I think if they cut Graham Gano and they sign some other kicker and he's not great and we lose a couple games on a missed field goal or whatever, I don't think that's making or breaking the season this year. I really don't.
No. The season's not coming down to a missed field goal against somebody.
Correct.
And I think, when we get closer to the regular season and we start talking about what do we want to see from this coaching staff, one of the big things is, have they learned from past mistakes?
Right.
Have they, are we going to still see the same dicking around with the roster that turns around and bites them in the ass at the end? I would like to think that last year was a real learning session for them, that a couple times through, lack of moves or, poorly planned moves, that they were short on game day in critical situations. So that's one of the things we'll be looking at, from this coaching staff once the season starts. But yeah, I agree. I think.
So listen to me. I just want to say this because I want to know if you agree. I'm okay losing games because a kicker gets hurt and he misses. when your kicker can't go at all and you had the foresight of it but didn't do anything about it and just assumed he was good to go and then you're pumped. That's like, tell me this is true or not. That's like such a Jets way to lose.
It's a bad organization is what that is. That's
It's
that's a
embarrassing.
lack of it's a lack of institutional kind of quality control. And it's not just the coaches. That should be from the top down. Wait a minute. What if? I mean, that's all they do all day. It's like, what if scenarios? What if this guy gets hurt? What are we going to do? What are we going to do for this? What are we going to do for that? And that was amateur hour.
Mm.
And it looked like we were just deer in the headlights because of it. And so not anticipating it, not anticipating the moves to make for it. And then when it's happening, being like, how did this happen, was just very amateur hour.
Yeah.
So this is not a bunch of rubes anymore in the coaching staff. This is not a green general manager anymore. Player personnel. These guys have been around for a few years. I don't expect to see these type of rookie moves happening from guys other than guys wearing the helmets and the pads.
I agree. Yeah. Any final training camp thoughts?
No. Again, the most important thing of training camp is, besides being ready for the season to start, is making sure nobody's, hope we get through it without being hurt. But I just don't want to run my training camp on that fear of nobody getting hurt. So it's a fine line, and we kind of cross our fingers and nobody gets hurt. But I'm ready to get started. I mean, it means fall's coming. It's the most exciting time of the year. And I'm not booking my flights for the Super Bowl next year, but I'm booking going to the Meadowlands in December for meaningful games, and that starts now.
I am just excited for football to start. I can't wait. I don't really have any particular thoughts. I love all of it. The smell of it, the fights, the hot dogs, the fans, those shitty metal bleachers, the
Every time they change a drill, the air horn.
yeah,
Love that.
The 95% humidity. You and I are getting some breakfast. By the time you guys are listening to this, we've already gotten breakfast, I think. Went to the Candlewick
Might be
Diner.
throwing up in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be throwing up in the corner. We got some Candlewick Diner this morning. I'm sure it was great. I know it was great because it's always great. And I had it just the other day.
Unless you're a psychotic and you're listening to the show at 6 a.m. and before we've gone to breakfast, you want to meet us at Candlewick and pay for our flapjacks. That'd be really nice. So, or maybe we'll buy you a flapjack. Who knows? What do they call those little ones? The silver dollars. I'll buy you silver. Yeah.
So I was just recently at Candlewick Diner. This is a sponsor of the Giants Nation show with Bobby Skinner, which I will be on throughout all of training camp doing player profiles and projections with him. So be sure to check out Bobby's new show on Giants Nation.
And we are 4 weeks away from South of the Border.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest live show, a Giants Nation, Just Giants collaboration show for the ages. So if you are in Dillon, South Carolina on Thursday, August 27th, I believe it is.
I forget what it is.
Come on by for our South of the Border extraordinaire.
We've got plenty of fun stuff coming up, but like I said, be sure to check out Bobby's new show. He's building it from the ground up since draft season, and you can also find me on there. So if you want more of my nonsense, that's where you can find me also.
Yeah, just like and subscribe to both of our shows. How about that?
Maybe.
2 for 1. There, nice.
No deal, but just good stuff.
Yeah, sure.
All right, everyone. That's going to do it for this. I hope you guys all enjoy training camp. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you check out all of our remaining shows at Just Giants on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube. I hope you enjoyed Giants Nation show with Bobby Skinner on YouTube and iTunes and SoundCloud and Spotify and all that stuff too. And I hope that you guys are ready for Giants football because I cannot wait until next week. Go Giants.
Go Giants.